So I'm back, and today my plan is to tidy a few things up. I've got a few small jobs to do. One of them is opening up some of the holes for the downlighters, because I've got to make the holes slightly bigger for the brackets when they go through. I've got to add a few small bits of insulation around the windows. I've got to trim out a bit of old foam filler, and then hopefully we can get on to maybe some plasterboarding today and make a start on that. So now I'm just using my gun grade foam, and I'm just going to fill a few gaps around these windows. Struggling there, so in the end, all I did was screw this piece of timber up here so I could wedge the plasterboard up over the top so it wouldn't keep dropping down, and then I could just hold the bottom and push up and put a few screws in while I held it in place. So that seemed to work. There we go, that's a closer look. You can see I put a few more screws in along the edge. That was just to hold it a bit tighter. The other thing I did as well was, once I got a few screws in and held the plasterboard in place, I used the spirit level as a straight edge. I just drew some lines where the rafters are so that I can do all my screws in exactly the right place, so I'm not firing through into the insulation or thin air. You can see my downlight holes as well above me. I had to pull these cables through while I had that balanced on my head. Now, if I'm honest, you need someone else to do this with you. Doing it on your own is a lot of messing around. It probably takes you twice as long, so you're better off just getting a friend or someone in, paying someone if you have to, just to hold the board for you and get it in place. I have got plasterboard props, and they're brilliant, to be fair, and they do help you do a lot of this on your own. But with a sloping ceiling, it's a pain in the bum because it always wants to slide down the ceiling, and even when you're holding it like that, you've got nothing, you can't get your prop under it because the prop even allows it to slide. So there we are, it is what it is, so let's plod on. Side of the loft. I haven't done the reveals around the windows at the moment. I'll do them at a later date, but something I did come across, which I'll show you in a minute, was I had to cut back some of the insulation on the plasterboard because I wanted to expand the field of light that was coming into the loft. I'll just show you what I mean now. So if you take a look by here on the reveal of the window, obviously when you plasterboard this bit eventually, you put your plasterboard up there, there's a little gap in the velux, and you basically bring this piece of plasterboard down to the other piece of plasterboard there. Now, with the insulation coming down 90 degrees with this timber here, then obviously that would have set me at about that angle there, but by cutting this back, it means I can go back to that timber by there. And what that actually gives you, when you look at it, is a bit more room, probably about an inch or two on this side. So that's about 2 inches this side, 2 inches the other side, so you gain an extra 4 inches of your window opening in total of the width. If you have a piece of plasterboard coming down like that, the light is only going to be able to shine down that bit of the floor. Whereas what you find is, if you do that, now you follow that angle where the light shines, and that will go down there, and that will throw it all the way down to the chimney by there. So what it actually does, it gives you a lot more light in your loft, a lot more light on the floor. And if you have like a window like I've got over there, you've got one here, I've got one up there, you do that with all of them, your light will travel down to there, and then potentially you're getting the same with this. You're only really getting then this small spot in the middle that's not going to actually get any natural light shone directly onto it. I've got plenty of windows in here anyway, but that's just what you do with Velux windows. If you want to make the most of the light coming in, try to get the angle to taper as much as you can out to the side, and then it projects that light in. So it's little things like this I've been doing today. I've been a bit slow, to be honest. I don't like doing this. I'm getting a bit tired with it. I don't like the plasterboard. The insulation is a mess. And you can see on the floor now, you get all this plasterboard everywhere. You get the insulation. If you're outside, it's not such a problem. You just sweep it up. But now, when I sweep this up, if I do it too aggressively, basically I end up with it all floating down the stairs, and then we've got to go and clean downstairs again. Because I always upload these videos so late after I've done it, I'm already about 15 or 16 months behind. So just for reference for you lot, today is actually the day that the Boris Johnson is apparently going to announce the coronavirus Cobra plan, and whether all the schools are going to shut. So probably by the time you watch this video, you'll be saying, oh my goodness, that was 15 months ago, and look what's happened now. What a fuss we made over nothing. Well, let's hope so. Right, so a few weeks have passed now, and we're actually in about week 3 of this coronavirus outbreak. So in my day job, I'm still working from home, so I'm a bit limited with what I can do in the loft on the weekdays. Many other people seem to be out doing what they want at the moment. But I've actually managed to grab a day today, so we're just going to get on with the plasterboarding. And for any of you that may be thinking, how's he got his hair cut during the coronavirus? I did this myself. This is a DIY haircut. Pretty pleased with that, actually. But I won't be doing a video on how to cut your hair. I think I'll leave that to the hairdressers. It's a bit fiddly because you can do it 2 people really, one cutting, one measuring up, one holding it while the other screws them in. So, but it is what it is, and all I've done is put a few planks across the bottom here to do this. Still make mistakes though. You'll notice up there, which I'll show you now, I've just cut a hole in the wrong place. So this is the reality of doing jobs like this. It's not always perfect, but this is quite common practice. After a few hours work, when I get tired and complacent, you can see I cut the hole in the wrong place. I measured from this side rather than that side. It ended up in the wrong place, like I said. But so what I'm going to do is use the piece that I cut out, the circle, and I'm going to stick it back up there with I don't know, a bit of grip fill, sealant, grab adhesive, whatever, and then we'll put some scrim tape over the top before it's plastered, then I'll be fine. I really didn't want to waste any plasterboard, so that's the reason for that. So if you look down here, you can see that's just over the stairs. I've just put a couple of lengths of my stud timber, propped it on that little sort of shelf on the one end and over there. A little bit precarious really the way I'm standing, but I'm just using a few pieces of wood then going across that way to put my knees on if I need to kneel down. And I'm also standing on these. These have got to be sawn off, but I left those because I knew when I was doing this sort of work it'd be very handy for holding my plasterboard on and that when I'm doing that wall, and then I'll cut it down later. But it has been very useful just for putting my feet on, so I'm glad I haven't taken those off yet, if I'm honest. The other issue I got in this loft is, obviously I've got so many sheets that I brought up, probably over a year ago now, and I left them here, ready for doing this sort of work. I got another load of sheets in the garage, but in an ideal world, I'd like to use the really large sheets on here, so I want to try and use these ones and slide them into the side. I just do one large bit of the wall, get rid of them, and then all the cuts, I need to cut the plasterboard to get it in here anyway because it's too big to get up here now. So I may as well do the smaller pieces with the plasterboard in the garage, but unfortunately there's certain bits of this I've got to do first. Like I said, where I've got to saw off bits of timber is going to make it easier to stand up. So you've really got to think ahead with this and think which sheet are you going to do first, but at the same time I'm trying to think, well, try and save as many big sheets as possible. If I don't have to cut them, use the ones that are up here. It's no issue if I have to cut them, but at the end of the day, one sheet like that, you can see now if I can just slide that up there, put a few screws in, you've just done half the wall, and then just got a bit at the top. The problem is with doing all these small cuts all the time and all these silly angles, is it just takes forever and a day. It's not like doing a nice square ceiling. Every bit of this here, you've got a slope down there, Velux window, pitch down that way, window, then you've got another Velux window. Over this side we've got the dormers, we've got 2 small bits, and then even when you've done that you've got obviously all the downlighters in the ceiling. So it does get very fiddly. It's not particularly enjoyable because it's not very satisfying. It's not getting done very quickly, but again, it is what it is. This I just had up and it was getting a bit sketchy. These were flipping over, so I've just screwed that one into those to stop them twisting, so it's a bit more stable when I'm stood on it. And now I've got to cut these off. I've got to the point where I've got to get this on the plasterboard, so I've got to remove these, so that's the next job. By the old rafters that were just jutting out that I've never cut back, I've actually cut those back now because I got this sheet in. I don't really need those to be sticking out for any purchase to stand on. Round here I'm going to try and put this bit on today as well, and then it just means then that all that bit's kind of done, and then I can work my way back into the loft, and then as we come back up here then I'm obviously back on the floor level then, so I can do the rest. And what I'm hoping is if I get in the plasterboard on that side and all round the stairs side of it, I can then insulate between these studs then from the loft side, so it's nice and easy. Do my electrics, put the sockets in, and then put the final piece of plasterboard on the inside when necessary. It also means that if you're making a bit of a mess, it stays in the loft, because at the moment, like I said, I got this Velux window open here, so the wind is sailing through, and when it does, it just blows up every tiny bit of dust in here, and it's dragging it down the stairs, which is a pain because obviously the family are downstairs. You may notice that all this DIY is starting to take its toll on me. I've been using the ear defenders a lot more, and I've been using my free screw fix pad for my knees. And it makes such a difference, because if I'm up here all day, I'm on my knees on this hard board, I do notice it in the evenings a bit these days. I'm getting a little bit long in the tooth. And these I've been wearing for the impact driver. Now you should always wear ear defenders anyway when using any power tools, but shouldn't do it really, but I tend to use the impact driver without them. But of late I've noticed if I've been using that all day doing this plasterboarding, I get a hell of a ringing in my ears. Now in my earlier days I did used to play in a band, I used to do a lot of drumming, and again no ear defenders, so probably part of the problem. But definitely my advice is always wear your protection, your eye protection, your ear protection. You'll notice in the videos sometimes I don't. I'm not saying that's right, I just rush on through things. I shouldn't do it, and I'm paying the price now because with this coronavirus going on, there's no traffic around, it's really silent, and then in the evenings I can really hear that ringing. It's starting to come out, and I think it's masked normally by the general noise pollution in the background, so that's quite an interesting thing.